sign for his mailbox. He's in a business. He's Honorable Construction, and his name is Marshall Jones. All right. When I was making this sign, I made two or three other ones with the design, and at one time I was going for 19 inch, and then I thought, well, let me just make this a tiling toolpath so that I can make it bigger, because while this sign came out okay, it was just a little bit small for a mailbox. And then this right here will just hopefully fit right in there. And of course, this was this logo. I had to, take it from um, this basically set up and change it and move it around a little bit. So to make it fit. And so what I did, of course, is take the C and move it around and get it to where it, you could read it vertically. So I had to change all that around. So this is my attempt at doing this, which it worked fine. And of course, the spire was, big help in getting that done. Anyway, so the first couple of signs I did, the text was too small. And so basically what I did is I just made a block that was, it's basically almost 9.5 inches wide by 26 inches in length. So my board was about 10 by 27, 28, and I think it's more like 30 inches. So anyway, so I made a board so big, and that was my border that I put around it for the laser border. And basically that just kind of helps me to track it and keep it on there. And I was using the Tiling Toolpath to make this work. And, but basically let me go over to these settings right here. This is a graphic, and what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and load it up, let you look at it. I've got a 20-watt laser cutter. It's an Atomstack 20 watts on a Sharp HD 510. And I've set my power at 20 and my move speed at 40. Number of passes at 1. I'm using a hatch fill. My step over is 0.01 and the hatch angle is 60, and I'm using a cross hatch. Well, you say, well, how did you know what this thing is? So basically what I did is I created a laser settings database, which you can download for free. It works. It's compiled by FileMaker Pro. It runs on Windows, and you can download this, and it has information. I'm gonna have a link in my laser database settings video. Anyway, what I did is, this is a hatch test card. I made about 40 or 50 of these things, and whenever I came down here, I could zoom in and zoom in closer, and basically I was able to go down through here and say, okay, this is my settings. This is a 90 degree, this is 75 degree. I'm using a 0.1 step over, and the hatch settings is 60 degree, and a point like that. So I think my step over is 0.01. I think it's a typo. Anyway, so that gave me the settings, and this is of course my power settings here, and then this is the move speed settings. And I designed 4 or 5 of these test cards with different settings, different ratios to do that. And then I cut them in my Aspire or my VCarb Pro. Anyway, so I came up with the settings. Okay, this is about what I really liked as far as being dark and the move speed. So I went with that, and then I liked the crossover of 60. And this made a pretty decent engraving on it. And of course, it being a crosshatch and 60 degree, where it's going across, it takes some time to get that done. So anyway, that's how I came up with the settings. And, so those settings are there. And then, of course, I had my, crosshatch. If you look at the crosshatch settings, there they are there, 0.01 and so on. So, this is how I came up with this. And if you go back to this and you did a search for oak, and, I've got this information in there. I've got like a whole bunch of test cards in here, probably 40 test cards or better. And, that data is in there. And of course, again, you saw on this one, it's variable. So this one test card could fit into a bunch of them. But anyway, long story short, that's how I came up with my settings for this. And this worked out really nice to have this already done and figured out. So when I did that, and then it cut that, and then of course this is the text, and it's not much different in the settings is pretty much the same on that. So, but I did want to break it up into two, uh, as far as two settings, and so that kind of deal. And then of course my laser borer was out here on the outside, and that was just to nail my piece down. I basically burnt all this on my scrap piece of plywood out in my CNC, and until I could say, okay, that's looking pretty close to what I wanted to do, because I didn't want to burn up, use up a piece of oak for it. And I'm notorious for, just cutting a bunch of 24-inch by 24-inch on my shark. It'll cut 25 by 25, but I put it in there for us at 24 by 24. And then, I just nail it down with pin nails, 23 gauge pin nails, and then I can pop it up with a screwdriver and replace it when I need to. So, and I use the cheapo glue on. It's about $18, $19 a sheet. And when I can find it at that price, it used to be like 12 bucks a sheet. But anyway, it's still worth it to me that I can cut into it, run some samples on it, mark on my table where I want it to be, and then I can just pop it up and get it out of the way and have a clean slate. So that's kind of what I did with that. The settings on this was, pretty well spot on. There wasn't that much difference between the plywood or the pine test card and the oak. It wasn't quite as deep with the oak, but it looked pretty much the same. So, and you'll see in the video the pictures, that it came out just nice. So let's get out to the shop and look at. All right, I noticed a couple things when I was watching the video, that my rapid setting was set at 0.2, which is almost a quarter of an inch. So every time it changed from one zone to the next, it went up a quarter inch, which is kind of a waste of time when you got a laser going. And so I changed that back to 0.001. Let's just see if it will allow that. Okay. For some reason, it will not accept 0. If you change that to 0, it won't accept it. So let's have a look at it back here again. And that's 0.001. Let's just see what we got there. And it goes back to 0.002. So that's something that you have to look at for your Rapid Z for the laser. So you have to put something in there, I guess. And 0.001. So that's not a whole lot of up and down. So we'll just set it at that. And it'll keep that setting right up there and that kind of thing. The other thing that I want to talk about was the toolpath settings for the Tiling Toolpath. And this is the tile toolpath. And we're going to turn it on. And my tile heights are at 3.3 inches. They're basically 10 inches wide. And as you can see on this is tile 1 and tile 2. So basically at this point here, I have that set up to put that in there. And I also did notice that it also put a little tick mark right in here, and for that tile setting. So when it lasered, it put a small tick mark in there, which I thought, that's kind of different, because I never had noticed that it had done that before. So I was kind of curious to see about what this is. But basically, this tile is coming in here. And I did, whenever I was positioning this, I had this too far up in here. So I had my piece moved too far. I didn't move my second line down far enough. And, I had not very much, a 3/4 inch of material differences in here. And so I didn't quite get that moved where I needed to. But, only I probably noticed it. And you guys probably didn't even say that. But anyway, whenever you're compiling this and you're doing like that, of course, when you save your toolpath, it'll give you a side 1 and a tile 2 side, and it will do that. But the main thing was that I noticed that this was up, and I wanted to go back and change that and fix it. All right, I was down at my son's house earlier the year, and I took a bunch of logs and turned them into oak boards. And I went out to my stack in the shed and picked up 4 boards, and then I resawed them down, or not resawed them down, but ripped them down, jointed them, and then glued them together. So I took but these are the cut-offs from this board and this board anyway. So this has got like 4 boards in it, and then glued them back together with exterior glue. What this is this is a lasered, and that's his phone number. And this is the second or third sign that I made. A couple of them were made out of PVC, that white PVC board, and they were too little. The numbers here were just too little, so if you were driving by. Anyway, while I was doing this, I made one a couple days ago in the white, and I was doing some etching with it, trying to figure out, just exactly what cuts I wanted to do and how deep and all that stuff. And then when I kind of got this layout figured out, then I went to deciding, I'm going to make it out of oak. And this is a piece of oak from his property, and it's a piece of red oak. And the laser did a really good job of doing this. And this is down, you can feel it, and it's down probably, the 64th of an inch down. You can feel it. I mean, if I took a piece of paper, went over it, you would feel that in there. And anyway, this is a laser. I'll cut with laser. It's a 20-watt laser on my Shark CNC. And basically what I did is I used the tiling function. And let me go ahead and put this thing up here. That up. Let me fire this thing up a little bit. And what I did is I played around with just the plywood for a while. And I've probably done 10, 12 hours of lasering on this in the last 2 or 3 days. And what I did is I just burned it out on my good old-fashioned scrap board. And of course I just used the pin nailer and nailed down some plywood on there so that I could slide the board in and then move it, because I was using the tiling function. And with the tiling function, you can just keep using longer boards if you want them. I could make a 25-inch wide board if I wanted to. But anyway, this basically just slides through here, and you come up with your 0 point and line that up. Then after it burns that, then you slide it down here and you line up your index line with this line. And what I did is I burned it out on a piece of plywood so that I knew where my index lines were, so that all I had to do was just slide it down in there. Then I put a little 2x4 in here to support it so it didn't rock. And of course I did both sides. And yeah, this took this part right here with all this cross hatching was at 0.01 step over, and it was at 60 degree, and it was a cross hatch, so it was doing both ways, and that's what makes it so nice and black. And it really came out, there's no stain or nothing. I mean, the board here has a golden oak stain, but the black has not been stained or touched or anything to it. And of course it's got the natural personality of the wood in it. And all I'm going to do is put a clear coat over it and set it up to where it can hang from a mailbox. So anyway, so this was burnt on the plywood, and I let it burn there for a while. And by the way, you definitely want to take those lasers and clean them after every 4 to 6 hours. And then basically I'll take that off there and just run some alcohol, and I'll clean the lenses, put it back on there. It probably takes 5-6 minutes to do it. It's important. I don't leave that on there when I'm using the router, because it's subject to vibration, and screws start coming out of it. So I only slide it on there and off of there whenever I'm lasering. So I'll need to pull that off there. But anyway, great tool. I love having the ability to actually do hybrid, where I can use the cutters and then also use the laser to do the job. So anyway, so I cut it out here, and I tried several settings, text was little. I tried, not quite as thick a cross hatching. That was like it just at a 45 there, and then of course the cross hatching makes it a whole lot darker. And then of course I wanted the letters and the names a lot bigger. And so anyway, this came out really good. I did go ahead and cut another board, of course, and I thought, well, I couldn't decide whether or not I would, do that. It's oak. I'm just going to put a clear coat over it and get it ready to go. Make it really pretty. Put that oak on there and let her go. So, kind of what we got going on. There we are. Right, once you put a clear coat on there, some polyurethane because this is being outside hanging on a mailbox. Anyway, it's about 30 inches tall and about 9.5 inches wide, I guess. Probably 8.5, 9 inches wide. And there we go. So it came out really sweet, and I just went ahead and brushed it on both sides and put it in there. I had thought about originally cutting the sign off at this point, but then again, as it's dangling, I went ahead and let that on there so that it'll dangle down below the bottom of the mailbox a little bit. And of course, there's the line on there on the bottom. And I just went ahead and let it burn that in there into the setting. That's a different toolpath, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, so there we go, and it's be drying, and that should preserve it for hanging out in the sun for a little while. Came out nice.